They say sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you decide to change your life. I had a similar experience 18 months ago. I was sitting in my living room, looking out the window, thinking about, wow, I just turned 50 years old. I was like, okay. I was okay. I was comfortable with that. But what really made me uncomfortable was when I realized something that blew me away. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm 50 years old and I don't have any kids. And for me to think about this for the first time in my life, I was kind of disappointed with myself. But what really was the slap in the face that made me wake up was when I realized, wait a minute, not only am I 50 years old and I don't have kids, but there's a distinct possibility that I might never have kids. And that idea was what I needed to wake up, because I had been unconscious my whole life. So I looked at I did inventory of my life. Like, how did I get here? How did this happen? I was stunned. And I looked at the serious relationships I had in my life, and I tried to find the patterns, and I found them. And I wasn't very proud of them. One of them was I basically ran away from every single woman that ever loved me. And I spent the last 18 months exploring that and working on myself. And I realized that I wasn't really running away from them. I was actually running away from myself. I was running away from the parts of myself that I had not integrated yet and the parts of myself that I hadn't learned how to love. So I got motivated. I'm like, I'm going to do something about this. I don't want to continue living this unconscious life. But I didn't know where to start. So I heard a podcast, and the guest on the podcast said, hey, fears are what control us. Like, fears keep us in this little bubble of our comfort zone. If you can conquer your fears, you can change your life. And he said, make a list. Make a list of all your fears, and one by one, check them off. By the time you finish conquering all your fears, your life is going to be completely different. Your comfort zone is going to be bigger. And I could relate to that, so I'm like, I'm going to do that. I was excited. I got my piece of paper, my pen. I sat on my kitchen table to make my amazing list of fears. But the only thing I can come up with was I had a fear of singing karaoke. And I was frustrated because I know the reason I don't have kids is not because I'm afraid of karaoke. And I got frustrated also because these fears are hiding from me. How am I going to conquer my fears if I can't find them? So I hired professionals. Every week I saw a therapist for 6 months. I did all the homework. I read all the books. She told me to. I hired a personal growth coach, and I did all the homework. I read all the books, did all the exercises. And through that process, I learned I added some things to my list. My list got longer. One of the things I learned about myself is that I have a profound fear of rejection. And I also can add to that list that I also have a fear of intimacy. But it's not a fear of physical intimacy. That's easy. A monkey could do that. I had a fear of emotional intimacy, like, being vulnerable, letting somebody in. That terrified me. And that kind of explained why I was in these failed relationships and why I ran away. So finding those targets made me more motivated to conquer my fears. So one of the things I did, I also hired a singing coach to help me learn how to sing so I can sing karaoke. 6 months of classes. And I didn't sing karaoke at the conclusion. I sang in a recital in front of like 40 people. And I was stone sober. So that was an accomplishment. I spent the last 18 months doing all kinds of trainings. I traveled to Thailand and did some 2 Tantra retreats. I did workshops in Europe, ISTA training in Italy. Anyways, the theme for tonight is my favorite things, so I have a story about that. So I was in Thailand in a Tantra retreat. The subject of this retreat was a polarity, which is a Tantra concept of male-female attraction. And we spent a whole week in the mountains in an ashram in Thailand learning about male-female attraction. 70 people from all over the world. And the interesting thing is they started this exercise this week off, by separating the men and the women. So we couldn't interact with each other. For 3 days, the men and the women were not allowed to talk to each other, look at each other, no interaction. And I thought, oh, wow, it's really interesting. And the first day was kind of easy. The second day was difficult because I could see the women around, but I couldn't interact with them. I was kind of frustrated. The third day was torture. I was so uncomfortable, I didn't like it. And I started breaking the rules. I started trying to make eye contact. And other women were doing the same thing, so I was playing the eye contact game with them. I learned a lot about eye contact. It was beautiful. So what I realized at the third day, that final day, I realized, oh my God, I love women. I've always liked women, but I really love them. I love the company of women. I love their energy, and it shouldn't have been a surprise because I was raised by women. My mom, my grandmothers, both my grandmothers. I have 3 sisters. We all grew up together. Some of my best friends are women. And in college, actually, I had a chance in my junior year to live in a fraternity house, and I didn't do that year. I decided to live with my other friends in a house off campus. And those other friends were women, 6 women. I lived with 6 women, all feminists, so you can imagine the conversations. So, yeah, my favorite things. Did I cover everything? Yeah, so it's been a fun 18 months, and it's still going. It's not over yet.